Hola y bienvenidos a Sex and Spanglish, where we empower mujeres to get in touch with their bodies, own their pleasure, and where we discuss all the cochinadas our abuelas didn't tell us about. I'm Ana Lopez, sexpert, future doctora, certified sex and life coach, proud Latina, and your go-to guide for all things sex. I'm here to help you kick vergüenza to the curb and teach you to have guilt-free sexual pleasure. Basically, I'm here to help you have mind-blowing sex without all the guilt and shame you learned growing up. Let's be real. La comunidad latina doesn't talk about sex, pero que suerte tienes because this Latina does. It is my vision to have Latinas worldwide discussing sex with one another just like they do with chisme. Así que, prepárate. I'm about to change the way you view sex para siempre. Welcome back to another episode of the Sex and Spanglish podcast. Today we are going to be talking about leading questions. So if you have ever taken a research methods class, or if you have ever watched a court show or been in court yourself, right, whether you were like on the stand or just watching, whatever, you've probably heard the term leading questions. So leading questions are questions that people ask in order to get a specific response. It's almost like prompting or encouraging the person answering the question to answer in a specific way. So an example of this is like, say I invited you over for dinner and I made dinner and you ate it, and I say, did you like the food? You would say yes or no. Obviously, you have the autonomy to say yes or no. But the reason why that is a leading question is because in the question is the word like. You are able to hear what I want you to say by listening to the question, right? It's encouraging you to say yes versus something like, what did you think of the food, right? Just like an open-ended kind of neutral question. So that's leading questions. And I'm going to go into a real life example of like how this played out in my life. And then we're going to talk about how this relates to sex and how you can actually apply leading questions to your everyday life and your sex life. So over the weekend, I had a to-do list that I wanted to get done, specifically on Saturday. It was like a to-do list, like these XYZ, these are the things that I want to get done on Saturday. So I woke up Saturday morning and I had initially planned on getting up early. But when I woke up, I was like, I do not want to get up. I'm exhausted, like my alarm went off, right? And I was like, absolutely not, going back to bed. So I went back to bed. I ended up getting up, I don't know, I think I woke up around like 9 or something, and I didn't end up getting out of bed until about 10 or 10:30. I was exhausted. And so I got out of bed and I was like eating breakfast, and I was like, man, like I had this whole to-do list that I wanted to get done today. And in retrospect, it wasn't that many things, but they take a lot longer. So that was why I was having this drama. So my to-do list was that I wanted to do a hot oil treatment on my hair. And for those of you that do hot oil treatments, typically people leave them overnight just because like they take a really long time, or like the longer you leave it on, the better. I wanted to record a podcast, and I also wanted to get some homework done. And my homework assignments, just for so you know what's going on. Like for this particular assignment, I have to read a research article, which is 45 pages long. And I also have to read 2 chapters out of this book, which I don't know how many pages they are, but I think they're about 20 pages each. And I had to read, I think I just said 2 of those chapters, but I actually had to read 4 of them. So I had to read 4 chapters and a 45-page article, in addition to answering questions about that. So it's going to take a while. I'm still not done, just for transparency's sake. But what does this have to do with leading questions? When I woke up, or when I actually got up out of bed and was like, oh, I have this to-do list, like my first question to myself was like, how am I going to get this done? Like I have no time, like whatever. And so I was having a lot of drama about it. And I was like, no, how can I get this done? Right? Like asking myself that question helped my brain look for the answer. How can I get this done? right? I knew it was possible. So what I eventually came up with was that I can start off with a hot oil treatment, right? It was still 10 in the morning. I had plenty of time to do the hot oil treatment and wash my hair that day. So for those of you that don't know, when you do a hot oil treatment, you have to wash it out. And then because I have curly hair, I have to style it and I have to wait for it to dry before I can actually go to bed. So it had to be done and my hair takes forever to dry. For those of you that have curly hair, you also know that it takes forever to dry. So, it's not like I could just wash it at 8 p.m. and then be ready for bed by 10. No, I need to wash it at the latest by 7 to give it a couple hours to dry, and then I have to diffuse it, and it's a whole thing. So anyway, when I asked myself, how can I get all of this done? I came up with a plan, right? I start off by doing the hot oil treatment. It's 10 a.m. I can get the hot oil treatment in my hair, still have time to wash it out before bed tonight, and have my hair styled and dried before I go to bed. While the hot oil treatment is in my hair, I can record a podcast. I can do that, right? The hot oil's doing its thing. I don't need to monitor it. I can record a podcast while I'm doing this. I know that my homework assignment is going to take a little longer because there are 4 chapters I have to read. There's this longer article that I have to read. I have to ask questions. I know it's going to be more time consuming than recording a podcast. So the next question that I asked was, how can I make this podcast recording effective and still get the message out there that I want to get out there? How can I get it done, have it be effective, but still save myself time? I'm oh, easy. I record 5-minute episodes every week on Wednesdays, right? I release a 5-minute episode, typically 5 and under, every single week, and those messages are effective. I can record a shorter podcast, maybe even 2, right? And get that done within an hour. And I have the rest of the day to spend on doing my homework. So what ended up happening was I went ahead and I did the hot oil treatment. I left it in my hair all day. While I was recording my podcast, I ended up recording 3 podcasts that day. And that was within the span of an hour. I went ahead and scheduled them, everything, got them out there. And then I started on my homework. And I actually really enjoyed doing this assignment. And I don't know if it was because, it was the last thing on my to-do list, or just because I really liked this topic or whatever. But it was amazing to see what I was able to accomplish simply by asking myself better questions. What I've noticed in my clients and just people in my life, and myself included, I've done this as well in the past, is when things seem hard or things aren't going the way that we planned or the way that we wanted, we end up asking ourselves questions that are not very helpful. Why is this happening to me? Or we say things like, I'm never going to get this done. I don't have time for this. Why can't I have more time? Why can't I be better at time management? Why can't I have more money? We ask ourselves all these things, and we usually don't answer them. They're kind of rhetorical questions to ourselves. But when you answer those questions, you're going to come up with the negative thought patterns that you're thinking all the time unconsciously. So I invite you to ask yourself better questions, because anytime you ask yourself a question, your brain is going to give you an answer. Do not allow your brain to say, I don't know, because that's going to be the first answer it comes up with, and that's okay. Just expect that to happen. But allow yourself to actually answer the question. Just like when I said, how can I get this done, right? I allowed myself to answer the question, and I came up with an amazing plan. Our brains are problem solvers. It's what they want to do. So allow your brain to do what it wants to do and problem solve in a way that benefits you. That's why they're leading questions, right? Don't ask it things like, why don't I have enough time? Who the fuck cares? How can I find the time to get this done, right? That is so much more powerful. So I'm going to give you some examples of questions that you can ask yourself. And this is not an exhaustive list by any means. Ask yourself all the leading questions that you want. So I'm going to give you some example scenarios and some questions that you can ask yourself. So if you want better sex, one, if you're saying I want better anything, I don't care if it's sex, relationship, whatever, doesn't matter, define that. What the fuck does that even mean? Because that's probably partially the problem. So if you want better sex, you want to ask yourself, how can I have better sex? What does that look like? What would make my current sex life better? And how can I get that? How am I already having amazing sex? And I want you to pause and ask yourself each of these questions. Give yourself time to answer them. Really get deep with these answers. Because whatever you come up with, that is your action plan. That is what you're going to do to get the result you want of having better sex. If you want a better relationship, you're going to ask yourself, how can I have a better relationship? What does that look like? What would make this a better relationship? How am I already in an amazing relationship? Right? How do I support this amazing relationship? What am I doing? What can I do even better? Right? Not that you're doing anything wrong, but like, how can I go above and beyond? Right? So again, pause, answer these questions, really flesh them out. Don't just give like one word answers, right? If you want to be more confident, ask yourself things like, what would I need to do to be more confident? How am I already confident? How can I enhance the confidence that I do have? Where am I at? What am I doing when I feel my most confident self? How can I repeat that daily? How can I find ways to implement that into all areas of my life? If you want more foreplay, ask yourself, how can I create room for foreplay? What could foreplay look like if I wasn't following a specific rigid definition? What would it look like for me if it could be anything? What would that look like? I also invite you to go back to episode 22. If you are wanting more foreplay, I did an entire episode on foreplay and what that can look like for you. So definitely go back and listen to that. So those are the 4 scenarios that I want to share with you today. These are just some examples of things that you can ask yourself. Again, not an exhaustive list. Just come up with more questions. And as you get practice doing that, you're going to get better at asking yourself questions. You're going to find the questions to ask yourself, because I already know some of you are like, well, I don't even know what to ask myself. Don't worry. I got you. So find out what it is that you want. What is the result that you're looking for? Once you find that result, then you are going to ask yourself questions about how to get said result. So in this scenario, it was like you wanted better sex. Okay, you ask questions about how to get that. You want a better relationship. You ask questions about how to get that. You wanted to be more confident. You wanted more foreplay, right? We ask questions about how to get there. It would be like asking for directions, right? So if you're in California and you want to get to Florida, you're driving there. How do I get to Florida, right? You're asking yourself how to get to the destination. And you're literally asking yourself. You're not asking other people. I want you to find the solutions for yourself. Now, that isn't to say that you can't go out, you can't get coaching, you can't get resources, more information, but most of the answers reside inside of you. So ask yourself first. So that is all I have for you today. And I want to know, what leading questions are you going to ask yourself about your sex life, about your relationship, about whatever it is that's going on in your life? Let me know. Send me a message on Facebook or on Instagram, on TikTok, whatever that looks like. Let me know. Send me an email. Doesn't matter. I want to know. I will see y'all next week. Hey mujer, this is your invitation to join La Sinvergüenza Symposium. Redefine what it means to be a sinvergüenza and learn to do the things you enjoy without shitting on yourself. The waitlist is open and ready for your name. The link to join is in the show notes. If you like what you heard, be sure to hit the subscribe button to be notified when new episodes are released. Join me every week to hear me talk about orgasms, foreskin, dildos, and all the other cochinadas your abuela didn't tell you about. But that's not all. We'll also discuss machismo, la tía metiche, and sexual stories from other Latinas just like you. And if you're ready to start spicing up your sex life tonight, then be sure to download my free ebook, Spice It Up con la Sex Coach. You can find the link in the show notes. And finally, let's keep in touch. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Sex and Spanglish. Be sure to follow me and let me know you heard this episode. Deseándote todo el placer, porque el placer es poder.